Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.
Hare Krishna. I am Rajarsi Dasa. Welcome to Hare Krishna today. On today's program, we're continuing our series on Bhagavad Gita awareness. On our previous programs, we have discussed what is the Bhagavad Gita, the science of the soul and its relationship with the Supreme. In our previous program, we have discussed many parts taught in the Gita. There are many goals, but there's one ultimate goal. We discussed what are the qualifications for understanding the Bhagavad Gita that we have to follow in the footstep of Arjuna. Understand the Gita as Arjuna did. Today we're going to look at some basic principles, universal principles that applies to all beings in this world that is mentioned in the Gita. In other words, sometimes some people would follow the teachings of the Gita, and by following the teachings of the Gita, they aspire to attain Krishna. But even if people don't follow the Gita, they try to follow some other religious scriptures, the same thing, the same principles in the Gita influence everyone, basic laws. So we're going to look at those laws and those principles. Okay, so it's just like how Krishna started to enlighten Arjuna in the Gita. He started with giving information about body and soul. In other words, clarifying what is our identity. Now, it's not that that has anything to do with what you believe in or who you worship. That's fundamental to material nature, that we all have bodies, whether it be human body, dog, or cat body. Souls have bodies. Now, when we have these material bodies, we act as though we are these bodies. And that's the problem. Acting as though we are these bodies. We act in the interest of these bodies. So Krishna says that our identity consists different things. So let us look at personality as Krishna describes in the Gita. He describes soul, tiny spirit soul that is eternal. Then he says that the soul is passing through bodies from childhood to youth to old age. We have bodies. And he gives the constitution of this body, the makeup of this body. Earth, water, fire, air, ether. These are the material elements that combine to make up this physical body. And that applies to all beings. So these are basic principles. Then Krishna says that all the souls in this world are under the control or under the influence of the three modes of material nature. So that's another universal principle. It is not like if you an atheist and you don't worship any god or you're this type of person, that type of person, you function in a different dimension. If anyone understands the Bhagavad Gita, then he can understand what's going on with everyone in this world. So Krishna says that all the souls in this world, Tribhir guna mayir bhavair ebhi sarvam idam jagat mohitam nabi janati mamebhya paramavya. That deluded by these three modes, goodness, passion, ignorance, Krishna says, mohitam nabi janati. All the souls are there in this moha, this illusion, and they just don't understand me. That is the result of being in this moha, or this maya, this illusion. When a person is deluded, he doesn't know himself, and he doesn't know who God is. And he doesn't really know what is going on either. That is the point of maya, or the bewilderment. So this is a very complex subject matter. In fact, the last 6 chapters of the Gita is dealing a lot with nature, consciousness, and the soul who is trying to be the enjoyer. Yeah. A great part of the Bhagavad Gita has to do with the soul who is trying to exploit this material nature, and how he's being complicated and how he's becoming bound up in this world. Big part of the Bhagavad Gita is dealing with this bondage. And sometimes it appears to be, well, that's for those who are trying to understand. They may find complication. For other people, they just go with the flow in ignorance, and they don't even care what's going on. They think it's me. I am doing this, I am doing that, I am accomplishing so many different things. I am. Who you think is doing? I am doing it. So what does Krishna say about that in the Gita? 3:27, Krishna says, Prakriti kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvashaha ahankara vimudhatma karta aham iti manyate. Interesting verse. Krishna is saying that the bewildered spirit soul, under the influence of the 3 gunas, the 3 modes of material nature, thinks himself to be the doer of activities that are in actuality carried out by the 3 modes of material nature. This bewildered soul is thinking, I am the doer. But Krishna is saying that all activities is being carried out by the 3 modes. Now this sounds very confusing. A person thinks, what do you mean by the 3 modes? I am doing things. I did this work. I did this. I did that. Well, for you to say you are doing first, you should be able to establish your identity. Who is the I you are speaking about? Who is the I that is doing? Who are you? What are you? Establish your identity. What are you? Are you that little baby? Are you a youth? Are you the adult? The physical identity that we are seeing, it's always changing. So what I are you speaking about? What is the I? The child, the youth, the adult, the old man? What is the I? So when we say I am doing, Bhagavad Gita is very deep. And until and unless someone follows the prescribed method, he's not going to be able to penetrate the subtle aspects even of the material nature. The bewilderment, the confusion being an illusion, we can't see through it without knowledge. Krishna says in the Gita, Pashyanti jnana chakshushaha, but those whose eyes are trained in knowledge, they can see all this clearly. But others cannot. Vimudha na anupashyanti. For the bewildered, they cannot see what is going on. So how is it that Krishna is saying that the soul is thinking, I am the doer, when in actuality it is carried out by the three modes? How is that? Well, the soul is very minute. Keshagra satabhagasya sadangsa sadrishatmaka. It is 1/10,000, the tip of a hair. That is the soul. Very minute, very tiny, that soul. So, the soul being so minute, it has a body. And the body is a product of the material nature. This material nature, consisting of earth, water, fire, air, ether, all these elements, it is controlled by the Lord's energy. Durga Devi, she is the superintendent of this world. Yes. She controls the material nature. So what are the elements we are looking at? One, that tiny soul, 1/10,000, the tip of a hair. That's one of the factors we're speaking about. Two, we're speaking about this mechanism, this material nature, Prakriti. Anybody else involved? Yes. Present. Paramatma, the super soul. For anything to happen, there are these three doers. How it works? Stay tuned. Let me give an example. If I have a bundle of clothing to wash, I representing the soul, the tiny spirit soul. I have a bundle of clothes to wash. So I approach you representing Paramatma, the super soul. So I say I have clothes to wash. And you, the super soul, who is the proprietor and the permitter, you say to me, use the washing machine. So I, with your permission, take the clothes, put it into the machine, turn up the dial. And what happens? Clothes is washed. I take out the clothes and I go and I tell people, I just washed clothes. I just finished washed clothes. You get the idea? Karta aham iti maniyate. Karta aham. Karta aham means I am the doer, the bewildered spirit soul under the influence of material nature thinks himself to be the doer of activities that are in actuality carried out by the three modes. It is the washing machine that washed the clothes. So what role did I play? The machine didn't take the clothes and wash it itself. So definitely I have some responsibility. Icha, I had a desire to wash clothes. So we have a desire, and that is what initiates. God, Paramatma, the maintainer, He sanctions. He says in the 13th chapter, Upadrashta Anumantacha, that I am the witness and I am the permitter. We need to get it right. If we don't become conscious of God who is witnessing and permitting, then if we live in ignorance, then we have to suffer the consequences. So, we are looking at a very subtle and a very important factor, because this is what it means to be in illusion. As a matter of fact, the Sanskrit word for false ego is aham kara. Aham means I, and kara or karta is the doer. I am the doer. False ego is when that eternal soul is under the spell of Maya and it is thinking, I am a body. That is called Maya. Yaya samohita jiva. Yaya samohita jiva. Atmanam Sri Gunatmakam. When the jiva, the eternal spirit, think itself to be Sri Gunatmakam. This body is a product of the three gunas, the material nature. If we don't get a clear understanding of our identity and how we are bewildered and confused and controlled by the material nature, then where is the question of getting out? If we don't even know what we are bound by, what are we trying to become free from? We can blindly close our eyes and say, believe and you will be saved. Saved by whom? Maybe the Jamdoots. Huh? You can believe and live in a grand illusion and think you are saved. But saved from what? So we can't afford to remain in ignorance, close our eyes and think that, yeah, well, I don't know, it doesn't matter whether I'm soul or I'm my body or what, I don't know what is what. As a human being, we cannot afford to remain in ignorance. We're not expected to remain in ignorance. We could choose to, but we'll have to suffer the consequences. We have declared this year Bhagavad Gita Enlightenment Year just because Kali Yuga is such an unfortunate situation. The general mass of people are just blind. And it's the blind leading the blind. That's the prediction. Nate vidu swarta gatim hi vishnum durashayaye bair artamanina. Andhayata andhair upaniyamana te pishatantriyam urudamni badha. The scriptures is saying that the people of Kali Yuga, they just absorbed in this Bahir Artha. This Bahir Artha, this external economic development. Whereas in Satya Yuga and other ages, people had it clear that the goal of my life is to prepare myself to get out. Life is preparation, death is the examination. I have to be prepared. So that's the danger in this age of Kali Yuga, that people are in ignorance. It was just 5,000 years ago, at the beginning of Kali Yuga, that Lord Sri Krishna appeared on this earth planet. And He's addressing us. We are His children. He says, Mama Ivansha Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatan, the souls in this world Mama Eva answered, they belong to me. But manaha shashtani indriyani prakriti sthani karshati. But right now the souls are struggling with this maya, this material nature. So Krishna is giving some basic principles that are applicable to everyone. We can understand we have a physical body, we have senses. But beyond this physical body with the senses, there is the mind, and the functions of the mind are thinking, feeling, and willing. Yes, we have that ability, that capacity. We can think. When we think, we feel some subtle pleasure, enjoyment, and then we will, we endeavor, we want to have it. The functions of the mind, thinking, feeling, and willing. Then above the mind is the intellect. This capacity to reason, rationalize, analyze. Is this right or is it wrong? So how are we going to know what is right and what is wrong? Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, the basis, the scripture, is conveyed by the Guru and the Sadhus. So this is the way we can tell what is to be done and what is not to be done, what is proper, what is improper. So basic principles in understanding our identity, it applies to everyone to understand I am a soul, but I have a physical body with senses. Understand the mind and the nature of the mind. We have to understand how we are victimized by the mind. Krishna says the mind can be the best of friends, but the mind can be the worst enemy also. So when we're talking about being a yogi or a spiritualist, it means that we have to take responsibility for controlling the senses and controlling the mind. That's the first business of a sadhaka, a transcendentalist, a spiritualist. And when we're speaking about controlling senses and mind, we're not speaking about going up to the Himalayas or something and some remote kind of thing. We're speaking about practicing yoga in day-to-day life, yama niyama, regulating the senses. That's what we're speaking about. We can progress in day-to-day life by understanding the various aspects of our personality and how we can be degraded or how we can be elevated by our senses, our mind, our intellect. Using the intellect means the application of scriptural information, knowledge given by God. That is what tunes our intellect. How would we know what is right, what is wrong? The definition of intelligence is to analyze, the ability to analyze things in their proper perspective. Analyze things in their proper perspective. So we get the proper understanding from scripture. The things in this world are temporary, and we belong to the eternal world. It is spiritual, it is eternal, it is full of happiness. So the scriptures are saying that we should invest our senses, our mind, our intellect in God. Thoughts, words, and deeds, Haridasi, in His service, in God's service. And by doing so, we become free from the bondage Because remember, we said we're controlled by the three modes. So Arjuna has a question. How do we become free from the modes? And there's nothing ambiguous, Krishna says. Daivihesha gunamai mama maya durateya. That this maya is durateya, it is very difficult to overcome. But mameva ye prapadyanti. Maya metam tarantiti. But one who surrenders unto me can easily cross beyond the maya. So how do we do it? Arjuna wants to know. Krishna say, Mang chayo vyabicharena bhakti yogina sevate sagunan samatityaitan brahma bhoya kalpate. One who engages in full devotion, unfailing in all circumstances, sagunan samatityaitan. He transcends, he becomes free from the influence of the three gunas. So, Bhagavad Gita awareness here, we should take the opportunity to try to understand the basic principles that govern our existence. That I am a spirit soul. I have a physical body with senses. There is the mind, there is the intellect, and there is the false ego, or what makes the eternal soul identify as a product of matter. I am this body, that is false ego. I am eternal servant of Krishna, that is our swarup, that is our real identity. I'm Rajarsi Dasa saying Hare Krishna, and do join us again next week for a continuing presentation. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna